I fear the Democratic Party is at risk of becoming a ghost brand too. Like Sears, it used to be mighty and ascendant and popular. Sears once accounted for 1% of the entire American economy and 41% of the appliance market, and built the country's tallest tower. Democrats once controlled Congress and the Supreme Court, or at least competitive. But now, even at a time when President Trump is turning 250 years of democracy into jeans shorts, the Democrats have their lowest rating in 35 years. I'm just saying, Democrats need to get their shit together because America needs two political parties, not one party and one Halloween store.
Halloween's come and gone, and right on cue, Maher took another jab at the woke brigade, never one to miss a swing. On the latest Real Time with Bill Maher, the sharp-tongued host torched the DNC, calling it a hollow version of what it used to be. His warning was clear: get it together, or face extinction. Buckle up, folks, this one's going to sting. Let's get into it.
Since Halloween, I must tell you all a ghost story, and this one is... and this one is really scary. It's not about the kind of ghost that rattles your chains or turns your lights on and off or, lends a sensual helping hand with your pottery. No, this kind of ghost sells dishwashers. Or at least it did. Yes, I'm talking about a ghost brand. A ghost brand. That's a company or a store that, like Sears, still exists, but only as a pathetic shell of its former self. The brands that make you say, oh, they're still making that? Because they screwed themselves out of relevance, and now their logos haunt us.
By now, you can probably see where Maher was headed with his ghost companies analogy. Their power has faded, their impact barely noticeable compared to what it once was. Once giants in politics and business, they're now hollow shadows of their former glory, scrambling to stay relevant in a world that's long moved on. Their voices still echo, but the crowds stopped listening. And if you're still guessing who Maher's really calling out with this haunting comparison, don't worry, the punchline's coming, and it lands right where it hurts most.
I'm talking about brands like Kodak, Polaroid, Radio Shack, GE, Atari, and RCA. They still have value because name recognition is a huge asset, and so is nostalgia. You trust Hitachi to make a magic wand because mom had one. And let's leave it at that. But it's not where you want to be as a business, barely surviving on old customer habit with just enough juice in the name to still slap it on something and sell it somewhere. That somewhere being a street vendor's table in Chengdu, where you can get a Playboy keychain for $1.
If you still haven't pieced together who Maher's calling out, his final remark makes it crystal clear. And honestly, it's a sharp observation. Think about it, the DNC has gone eerily silent in recent years. Aside from a few loud voices like Zoran Mamdani and Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, there's hardly any real momentum or noise coming from the party. The fire that once drove progressives has dimmed, replaced by hesitation and political burnout. Maher's point goes beyond politics, it's about how the DNC's once commanding voice has faded into background static, leaving many to wonder if the party even remembers what it stands for anymore.
The cautionary tale of the ghost brand is an important one because it applies not only to business but also to politics. I fear the Democratic Party is at risk of becoming a ghost brand too. Like Sears, it used to be mighty and ascendant and popular. Sears once accounted for 1% of the entire American economy and 41% of the appliance market, and built the country's tallest tower. Democrats once controlled Congress and the Supreme Court, or at least competitive. But now, even at a time when President Trump is turning 250 years of democracy into jeans shorts, the Democrats have their lowest rating in 35 years, 63% unfavorable. What happened? I don't know. What happened to Sears?
So, Maher throws out the big question: what happened to the DNC? Their ratings have cratered, and not because Trump is destroying democracy, as they love to claim. As I've said before, Trump isn't tearing the system down, he's exposing it. He's shining a light on a media landscape that spent years dividing Americans with selective storytelling and fear-based narratives. For too long, mainstream outlets twisted facts about him, turning real policy discussions into emotional battlegrounds built to fuel outrage. But now, that strategy's collapsing. People are waking up, tuning out the noise, and starting to see that the so-called defenders of democracy might have been the ones quietly undermining it all along.
I don't know, what happened to Sears? It used to be synonymous with the American dream because it kept faith with what the customer wanted. Did we love Sears? No, but that was besides the point. You just went. It was like an Avatar movie that sold tools.
And that's exactly right. Just like Sears, the DNC stopped delivering what its customers, the American people, actually wanted. Instead, it started catering to a small circle of elites and activists who claimed to speak for everyone but really only represented themselves. Over time, this narrow, outspoken group hijacked the party's message, demanding loyalty, conformity, and silence from anyone who dared to question them. What was once a big tent movement became an echo chamber obsessed with identity politics and ideological purity tests. The DNC forgot that politics is supposed to be about persuasion, not intimidation. And in chasing the approval of a few, it lost the trust of the many who once believed in its purpose.
It used to be where your family bought everything, from school clothes to appliances to your family Christmas portrait. Now, Sears is a great place to go if you want to be alone. But you better hurry. Sears used to have 3,500 stores, and now it has 5. Same thing happened to Playboy, except in silk pajamas and a captain's hat.
A few voices within the party have tried to raise the alarm, warning that the DNC was drifting dangerously off course, but instead of listening, the establishment shut them out. When election night arrived, the DNC faced a brutal wake-up call, paying the price for ignoring the widening gap between their polished rhetoric and the real worries of everyday Americans. Now, Maher keeps sounding the warning, urging reflection instead of denial. But the question remains, will anyone inside the party finally take him seriously? Or is this the DNC's last chance to course-correct before fading into complete irrelevance?
For 66 years, Playboy magazine was also a fact of American life. Sears sold your father a mattress, and Playboy was what he hid under it. It was a surefire product, plus real journalism. You could read an interview with Carter while enjoying photos of Bush. But then it started messing around with the formula. Like the Democratic Party, Playboy decided they didn't need straight men anymore. They put transgender women and gay men on the cover, and predictably, sales, like their subscribers, collapsed.
It's true, the DNC has completely lost touch with the formula that once powered its greatest victories. In its prime, the party stood for genuine liberal ideals, protecting democracy, expanding opportunity, driving economic growth, and defending the marginalized without tearing the nation apart. That vision spoke to people across every background, uniting Americans around a shared belief in fairness and progress. But somewhere along the way, that foundation crumbled. Instead of embracing open debate and true inclusivity, the DNC fell into the trap of woke conformity. What was once a movement for everyone has morphed into a club for the ideologically correct. In chasing purity over principle, the party forgot a basic truth: democracy thrives on diversity of thought, not enforced uniformity.
The staff began using terms like intersectionality, sex positivity, and privileging. And in response, Playboy readers used terms like no thanks, get the out of here, and bye-bye. At one point, Playboy, yes, Playboy, even dropped the nudity, which is like cigar aficionado announcing, we're getting rid of the cigars. It went from entertainment for men to re-education for nobody, and enlightened their way to unpopularity.
I love how Maher draws a parallel between Playboy's downfall and the DNC's current decline. It's clever, biting, and painfully on point. Both once stood as bold symbols of freedom and rebellion, but eventually buckled under pressure, trading authenticity for appeasement. Playboy abandoned the daring spirit that made it legendary, swapping boldness for political correctness, and its audience disappeared. Now the DNC is making the same fatal mistake, surrendering its core liberal values to satisfy an increasingly intolerant fringe. But unlike Playboy, the DNC can't simply rebrand. Politics isn't about reinvention, it's about conviction and staying true to principle. If the party doesn't find its backbone soon, it won't just lose influence, it could vanish entirely.
Sometimes you gotta give the people what they want. But for some weird reason, it's apparently tempting for some people to not do that. Because even Cracker Barrel recently decided that they felt a little embarrassed that it was so popular with bumpkins who salivate at the sight of an old wagon wheel screwed to the wall. So they changed it to this, which got them no new customers while pissing off the old ones. It reminded me of when Chuck Schumer said in 2016 that for every blue-collar Democrat we lose in Western Pennsylvania, we're going to pick up 2 moderate Republicans in the suburbs of Philly, Ohio, Illinois, and Wisconsin. Yeah, how'd that work out?
Turns out, that quote didn't age well, because the DNC went on to suffer massive losses in exactly those areas. As Maher noted, the party seemed to grow bored with its own winning formula, the one that once united a broad coalition of Americans, and decided to tinker with it. The outcome? They pushed away their core supporters. Young men, white women, parts of the Latino community, and even some black men, all once loyal DNC voters, started drifting away. Why? Because they felt ignored, dismissed, or even demonized by the very party they stood behind. Meanwhile, Trump and the GOP did what any sharp competitor would do: they listened, adapted, and delivered what voters actually wanted. The DNC, in its arrogance, forgot that politics is a marketplace of ideas, and when you stop offering value, people take their business elsewhere.
At least Cracker Barrel had the sense to immediately say, "Oh shit, sorry," and put the sling blades back on the wall. Democrats don't seem to be doing that. They still seem to want to be that upscale store that impresses celebrities. Anybody remember Barney's? It was this store in New York that started in the 1920s, as a discount clothing joint on unfashionable, grimy 7th Avenue, a place where their customers, the working man, could get a decent suit at a very reasonable price. I remember going there in 1993 to get my wardrobe for a new show Comedy Central was launching called Politically Incorrect. Thank you.
Maher couldn't have said it better. The DNC has slowly morphed from a party of the people into a party obsessed with impressing celebrities, the very folks most detached from the daily struggles of ordinary Americans. Instead of standing shoulder to shoulder with factory workers, single parents, and small business owners, the DNC began parroting the talking points of Hollywood elites who know little about inflation, job insecurity, or rising living costs. The result was predictable: the working class felt abandoned. They saw a party more focused on virtue signaling at award shows than tackling real problems in real communities. So they walked away toward the side that, at the very least, pretended to understand them. In chasing fame and applause, the DNC lost something far more valuable: its soul, and the fight for everyday Americans striving for a better life.
We had no budget, and this was a place you could buy 5 suits for $2,000. Well, right after that, they opened a place on Madison Avenue, Barney's did, where you could buy 1 suit for $5,000. They wanted to party with the cool kids, and for a while they got to. For a while. Now they're a ghost brand that exists as a mini boutique inside one Saks store. And I'm not making this up just because it's Halloween, but after Barney's closed for good in 2020, it became, yes, a spirit Halloween.
But after Barney shut its doors for good in 2020, it literally turned into a spirit Halloween, and that comparison couldn't be more fitting. The DNC's future is looking increasingly grim, especially when you look at the figures leading it today. Politicians like Zoran Mamdani, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, Bernie Sanders, and Kamala Harris may dominate headlines, but they don't seem focused on uniting the party or winning back the broad coalition that once fueled Democratic success. Instead, they cater to narrow ideological factions, promoting policies and rhetoric that push moderates and independents away. Maher's warning feels downright prophetic. The DNC is starting to look like a fading brand that's completely lost touch with its base. Much like the now-defunct luxury store Barney's, the party risks becoming a hollow relic of its former prestige and purpose, a ghost of what it once was. If the DNC doesn't rediscover pragmatism soon, extinction might not be a distant threat, but its next chapter.
I'm just saying, Democrats need to get their shit together because America needs two political parties, not one party and one Halloween store.
In the end, Maher's critique goes far beyond politics, it's about survival. The DNC's decline began when it abandoned the values that once made it strong: inclusivity, common sense, and a real connection to everyday Americans. By trading those principles for ideological rigidity and celebrity approval, the party alienated the very people who built its foundation. Maher's message is simple but urgent: stop preaching, start listening. Because if the DNC keeps marching down this path of self-righteous isolation, it won't just lose elections, it'll lose its identity. And once that happens, there's no coming back from becoming a ghost of what it used to be. And that wraps up today's video. If you enjoyed it, make sure to hit the like button and subscribe for more content like this. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.